2 Kings chapter 19 verses 3. They said to him, thus says Hezekiah, this day is a day of distress, of rebuke, and of disgrace. Children have come to the point of birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth.
Segunda de Reyes, capítulo 19, versículo 3 dice, esto dice Ezequías, vivimos hoy momentos de angustia, de castigo y de higomanía, como si el hijo fuera a nacer, a la madre no tuviera fuerzas para alumbrarlo.
What is it that we need to change in order to reach our fullest potential?
¿Qué es lo que tenemos que cambiar si no queremos morir sin alcanzar nuestro máximo potencial?
What have you said to yourself that has kept you from changing areas of your life that you know need to shift?
¿Qué te has dicho a ti mismo que te han pedido cambiar las áreas de tu vida que necesitan cambiar?
Is it I'm not qualified?
No estoy calificado.
I'm not good enough.
No soy el suficientemente bueno.
I'm too old now.
Estoy muy viejo.
Or I'm too young.
Estoy muy joven.
They said I would never be anything.
Dijeron que nunca sería nada.
Or I don't have enough time.
No tengo suficiente tiempo.
What area of your ministry is lacking inspiration this morning?
¿Qué área de tu ministerio le falta inspiración en esta mañana?
What can you change today that can help you stay fresh and effective?
¿Qué puedes cambiar hoy que pueda ayudarte a mantener tu ministerio fresco y eficaz?
What opportunities have we overlooked because possibly we have been stuck in a place of complacency?
¿Qué oportunidades hemos pasado por alto por estar en la oscuridad de la complacencia?
Have we been wounded by the spirit of comparison?
¿Hemos sido heridos por el espíritu de la comparación?
What have we limited ourselves to become that we may have stopped growing or evolving into what God has for you and me?
¿En qué nos hemos limitado a convertirnos para que hayamos dejado de crecer y evolucionar hacia lo que Dios tiene para nosotros?
Why is it that we resist change so much?
¿Por qué es que nosotros resistimos el cambio tanto?
Is it insecurity,
¿Inseguridad?
denial
¿Denegación
that we need to change?
que tenemos que cambiar?
Fear of the unknown?
¿Miedo de lo desconocido?
The feeling of losing control?
¿La sensación de perder el control?
Perhaps it's a lack of competence.
Quizás es falta de competencia.
It changes our routines in life.
Cambios en nuestras rutinas de nuestra vida.
Or is it maybe we're too connected to the past?
O quizás estamos muy conectados a nuestro pasado.
So I have identified some principles this morning.
He identificado algunos principios que pueden ayudarnos en esta mañana.
I believe these principles can be applied to the young,
Creo que estos principios se pueden aplicar a los jóvenes,
to ministers, to pastors, and anyone who desires to make a difference in God's kingdom today.
a los ministros, pastores y cualquier persona que desee marcar la diferencia en el reino de Dios.
Because we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results.
Porque no podemos seguir haciendo las mismas cosas y esperar resultados diferentes.
You and I cannot keep doing what we did yesterday and expect something different today.
Tú y yo no podemos continuar haciendo las mismas cosas de ayer y esperar cosas nuevas que
We
sucedan.
have to change things we may have never imagined.
Tenemos que cambiar cosas que quizás nunca nos imaginábamos.
And we have to open doors to conversations
Y tenemos que abrir puertas a conversaciones
about things we may even be afraid to talk about.
sobre cosas en lo que tenemos miedo de entrar.
But they are very, very necessary for you and me today.
Pero son muy necesarias hoy para ti y para mí.
In the context of change in your life this morning,
En el contexto de tu vida, el cambio en tu vida en esta mañana,
I want you to answer the following.
quiero que conteste esta siguiente pregunta.
What will happen if,
¿Qué pasaría si
and there's a blank line, and you can fill that in?
está en blanco y usted puede llenar ese blanco?
What is absolutely needing to change in order for you to reach your goals in God?
¿Qué absolutamente es necesario cambiar para alcanzar nuestros objetivos?
And ask yourself this: do I have the right perspective to stay connected to what God is doing today?
Pregúntese usted, ¿tengo la correcta perspectiva para ver lo que Dios está haciendo hoy?
See, because there's no limits in God.
No hay ningún límites en Dios.
There's no limits to God.
No hay ningún límite para Dios.
There's only plateaus.
Solamente hay mesetas, no hay límites.
There's only places that we get to and we stop.
Hay lugares que llegamos y paramos.
And then we go to another place and we stop.
Y subimos a otro lugar
And
y
then another
paramos.
plateau.
Y al otro meseta.
And sometimes we forget all that happens in the valleys along the
Y
way.
se nos olvida todo lo que sucedió en los valles en esa jornada.
We must change today or we will die.
Tenemos que cambiar hoy o vamos a morir.
And the very first thing we must understand is the fact that we need new perspective on the future.
Lo primero que tenemos que entender es que ocupamos una nueva perspectiva para el futuro.
If you feel like nothing is going to change, why should I do anything? The truth is that you and I can delay death if we have vision.
Si algo puede uno entender hoy es que para cambiar su perspectiva, que podemos retrasar la muerte con visión.
Fresh vision that allows us to see beyond our physical conditions.
Una visión fresca que mira más allá de nuestras propias físicos.
You and I know that time is against us all.
Sabemos que el tiempo está contra nosotros.
We know life is changing.
Sabemos que la vida está cambiando.
But just because things are changing and we know what we see this life will bring, doesn't mean we have to stop and just become complacent right where we are.
Solamente porque está cambiando las cosas en nuestra vida, no significa que vamos a parar, pero tenemos que seguir adelante.
Have you ever had a situation that was destined to end bad?
¿Alguna vez has tenido una situación que estaba destinada a terminar mal?
The report that was given to you, you knew it was not favorable at all.
El informe que se dio no iba a terminar favorable.
There were a group of men in the Old Testament that were expected to die. They were outcast and they had no connection to the rest of the world. They were destined to have it all end in their condition.
En la Biblia había un grupo de hombres que se esperaban que murieran. Se habían visto afectados por una enfermedad que los había dejado destinados a morir.
They had a choice to make.
Ellos tenían,
They could die in their condition, or they can look for vision and see what the future could hold for them despite the report they received.
tenían ellos la decisión de morir en su condición o de tener visión para hacer un cambio en sus vidas.
Death and disease are uncomfortable conversations,
La muerte y enfermedad son conversaciones inconfortables,
but they become transitional places in life that can bring out the best or the worst in us.
pero son momentos que uno hace cambiar a uno la muerte o la enfermedad.
All of us must go through change.
Todos tenemos que pasar por
Change
cambios.
is inevitable today. Change is normal.
Cambio es normal.
Change is difficult.
cambio es difícil.
Change may even be frustrating
El
for you and me.
El cambio es frustrante para usted y para mí.
Some changes come when there's a natural life, the cycle of life factored into our change.
Muchos cambios vienen por el círculo natural de nuestra vida.
And then there's disruptions to our lives.
Y también hay cosas que vienen a interrumpir nuestras vidas.
Disruptions that cause us to do a few things. Change or deal with it and do absolutely nothing.
Cambios que vienen a nuestras vidas y nos dejan pensando que si no hacemos nada, no puede haber ningún cambio.
We must all evolve.
Tenemos que evolucionar.
We must all evolve in this walk with God.
Todos tenemos que evolucionar en este paso con Dios.
We must develop gradually.
Tenemos que desarrollar
We must
gradualmente.
go from a simple to more complex form as we move along in life.
Tenemos que cambiar de una forma sencilla a uno más compleja en esta vida.
But there's something that you and I face each and every day.
Pero hay algo que tenemos que enfrentarnos y con lo que peleamos.
There's something that you and I fight with every day.
Hay algo con que nosotros peleamos cada día
And it could defeat us
y nos puede ganar
right where we are.
ahí donde estamos.
It gets in the way of our progress.
Se pone el obstáculo de nuestro progreso
And that is insecurity.
y esa es inseguridad.
It gets us stuck.
Nos tiene amarrados.
We have a tendency to sabotage our future by our own self-defeating mindset and insecurities.
Tenemos la tendencia de sabotear nuestro futuro con nuestra propia mentalidad.
But there was 4 men that delayed death because they had vision to move when others would say, you have to stay and just die and be nothing at all.
Pero hubo 4 hombres que retrasaron la muerte porque tenían visión de moverse cuando otros habrían dicho, quédate, has terminado.
2 Kings chapter 7, 3 and 4.
Segunda de Reyes, capítulo 7.
Now there were 4 men who were lepers at the entrance to the gate. And they said to one another, why are we sitting here until we die? If we say, let us enter to the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. So now come, let us go over to the camp of the Syrians. If they spare our lives, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. It doesn't matter. Let me paraphrase it in my version.
Deje explicarles en mi versión.
Hey fellas,
Hola amigos,
what are we doing here
¿qué
today?
estamos haciendo aquí hoy?
Let's head towards Samaria.
Dirígete hasta Samaria.
What is the worst that can happen to you and me?
¿Qué es lo peor que puede pasar?
We're already destined to die with leprosy.
Ya estamos destinados para morir de esta lepra.
What's going to happen if we just sit here?
¿Qué vamos a hacer si nos estamos aquí nomás sentados?
Hey, I'll tell you what, the 3 of us, why don't we get up and go to Samaria?
¿Por qué no nos levantamos y vamos hacia Samaria?
Hey, why don't we get up and make something happen? Who cares what I look like? Who cares what they say my end is going to look like?
¿Por qué no nos paramos y andamos? ¿Qué le hace cómo nos miremos? Pero vamos hacia adelante.
Why should we just stay here complacent and die?
¿Por qué nos quedamos aquí nomás para morir?
Why should we just sit here sick and have people care for us and have people serve us and attend to us? Why don't we get up and do something for God right now?
¿Para qué estamos aquí sentados? Para que la gente nos trate de curar y mantenernos. ¿Por qué no mejor nos paramos y caminamos hacia adelante?
Hey, I see Samaria. I see what it looks like. It's over there. Hey, why don't we go? Let's go see what we can do. Why don't we go see what we can conquer in Samaria today?
Yo miro allá una área, ¿por qué no nos paramos y vamos hacia allá a conquistar esa área?
But you know what happens?
Pero ¿sabe lo que sucede?
As soon as we start stirring up that confidence to do something big,
Que cuando comenzamos a animarnos,
we begin to start thinking back into that dormant state.
comenzamos otra vez a entrar a ese estado de dormir.
And then you and I probably tell ourselves, you know, why don't we just stay? Hey, honey, we're not going to make it anyways.
Oh, pero comenzamos a pensar, no, mejor hay que quedarnos aquí, mi amor.
They're
¿Para
doing
qué?
better than us over there.
Ellos están haciendo mejor que nosotros allá.
You know, we're just supposed to be these few little small people.
Somos esta gente pequeña solamente.
We're just lepers.
Nomás somos
We just
leprosos.
have our issues and our wounds.
Tenemos nuestras llagas.
That's all that we were supposed to be.
Es todo lo que Dios se iba a decir.
So
nosotros.
why don't we just give it all up right here?
Pero ¿por qué no aquí nos
So why don't we just
resignamos?
stop right
¿Por qué
here?
no paramos
So
aquí?
why don't you and I just throw in the towel right now?
¿Por qué no mejor te
But
echamos la toalla?
no, I'm here to tell you today, there's something more for you in Samaria.
Pero no, les digo, hay algo más en Samaria.
I'm here to tell you today.
Yo estoy hoy aquí para
I'm here to talk
decirte,
to all of us today.
para hablar con todos
We
hoy.
need to remove the insecurities in our lives.
Tenemos que remover las inseguridades de nosotros.
Because you know why?
¿Saben por qué?
Proverbs 24 says this, the sluggard will not plow for reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing. It's not on your screen. He knows, we know, this man knew. And sometimes that's us. We know that if we don't do anything, if we don't plant the seed, if we don't get enough courage inside of us to make the change now, we're going to starve.
Este hombre sabía que si no había un cambio,
harvest time.
iba a morir de hambre al tiempo de la cosecha.
Ecclesiastes 10:18. Because of the laziness, the roof caves in. And because of negligent hands, the house leaks. But Proverbs 12:24 tells me, the hand of the diligent will rule, but the slack hand will be put to forced labor. You know what that means? That means that we're going to have to do something that we don't really want to do.
Lo que significa esos versículos es que vamos a tener que hacer algo que no nos va a gustar.
We're going to have to do something
Vamos a tener que hacer algo
that is not favorable for us.
que no es favorable para nosotros.
If we let the insecurities of our life and our past hold us back,
Si las inseguridades de nuestro pasado nos van a detener para atrás,
we're going to have to struggle, we're going to have to fight through all those issues as we're moving forward in life, and we're going to continually get stuck.
vamos a tener que pelear esas inseguridades y pelear hasta salir de eso.
The second principle,
La segundo principio,
we must understand that we cannot be successful if we're not a person who embraces unity.
el segundo principio que debemos entender es que no podemos tener éxito si no somos una persona que abraza la unidad.
Because once you have your vision clarified and you're ready to move forward, we have to choose humility, not comparison.
En cuanto sabemos de nuestra visión está clara, tenemos que escoger humildad en vez de no comparación.
We need to remove comparison and be who God intended you and me to be.
Tenemos que remover la comparación y ser lo que Dios tiene para hacer
You are
nosotros.
not me and I am not you.
Yo no-
God designed us all unique in this house.
Yo no soy usted y usted no es como yo. Dios nos hizo a cada quien individualmente.
And there's no limits to what you and I can do despite our past,
No hay límite en lo que podemos hacer usted y yo.
despite our
No
pain,
le hace nuestro dolor y nuestro
despite our
pasado.
issues.
No le hace nuestros problemas.
This is a place where God transforms your pain into His purpose.
Este es el lugar donde Dios transforma nuestro dolor a su
So don't be
propósito.
fooled by comparison
So
in
no
your
sean
ministry.
engañados por la comparación y la humildad.
Comparison confuses our understanding of what God intended for you and me.
La comparación nos confunde en nuestro entendimiento lo que Dios tiene para con
It
nosotros.
confuses
Nos
us.
confunde.
And comparison produces self-promotion.
La comparación promueve autopromoción.
Paul speaking to the Corinthians, he
Pablo a
lays
los
this out in
Corintios.
chapter 10.
Habla del capítulo 10 a los Corintios.
2 Corinthians 10, 12 through 16. Not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves. But when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they are without understanding. Paul did not have the credentials of others. He was not liked by some. He was questioned in his ministry.
Pablo no tenía las credenciales de los demás. Algunos no le gustaban y le preguntaron sobre su ministerio.
Yet he excelled in his work and his influence grew and grew.
Sin embargo, sobresalió en su trabajo y su influencia
And
creció.
he teaches us a lesson how to defend our apostolic ministry.
Y nos enseñó una lección mientras defendía su autoridad apostólica.
But we will not boast beyond limits, he says. But we will boast only with regard to the area of influence God assigned to us. Not man, not you, not what you think it should be, not how you want to promote yourself, but what God intended for you to do and for those you are to influence.
So, no autopromoción, pero lo que Dios tiene para nosotros hacer y para tocar las vidas de otros.
And he goes on to tell us, so let one who boasts, verses 17 through 18, boast in the Lord. For it is not one who commends himself who is approved. There's no self-promotion in Paul's eyes,
No hay autopromoción en los ojos de Pablo,
but the one whom the Lord commends.
pero el que Dios comienda.
And it was Paul's pain that made way for his humility.
Fue el dolor de Pablo que hizo camino para su humildad.
He could have boasted. He could have bragged. He could have promoted himself. He had all the credentials.
Él podía ser presumido, promoverse él mismo, pero no lo hizo.
But God gave him something,
Pero Dios le dio algo,
a pain in his side,
un aguijón en su lado,
something to make him weak,
algo para hacerlo débil,
something to keep him humble,
algo para tenerlo humillado,
something to cry out to God and tell him, my grace, your grace, God, is sufficient for me.
Algo-
And your power is made perfect in my weakness.
algo para hacerlo clamar a Dios y decir, tu gracia es suficiente para mí.
So we have to fight.
So, tenemos que pelear
Fight for unity.
por unidad,
Fight for unity.
pelear por unidad,
We have to fight for unity.
luchar por unidad,
Fight for the truth that we must go forward together.
luchar por la verdad que debemos seguir adelante juntos.
God is all about unity.
Dios es todo de la unidad.
Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head, running down the beard, on the beard of Aaron, running down the collar of his robes. It's like the dew of Mount Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, life forevermore. In unity.
En unidad hay vida.
The spirit of
El
Moses,
espíritu de
he
Moisés,
couldn't do it all by himself.
él no lo pudo ser de él mismo.
That's why God appointed 70 elders.
Por eso Dios lo asignó 76 ancianos.
James tells us, pray for one another that you may be healed. For one another. Unity.
Dice Santiago que oremos unos por los otros para la unidad.
John prays, Father, make us one.
San Juan ora, Señor, haznos uno.
Is there something that is limiting us from initiating conversations and building bridges as the current and next generation of leaders, of pastors, and missionaries?
¿Qué nos limita a iniciar conversaciones y construir puentes como la actual y la próxima generación de líderes, pastores y misioneros?
If the devil can divide us, he'll conquer us.
Si el diablo puede dividirnos, nos puede conquistar.
That's why I believe the devil, the enemy, attacks unity.
Por eso yo creo que el enemigo ataca la unidad.
He attacks unity in our marriages.
Ataca la unidad en nuestros matrimonios,
He attacks unity in our relationships.
la unidad en nuestras relaciones,
He attacks unity in our ministry.
la unidad en el ministerio.
He attacks unity in our churches.
Ataca la unidad en la iglesia.
The very first thing he did in the Garden of Eden was divide Adam and Eve from God.
Lo primero que hizo en el jardín del Edén fue separar a Adán y Eva de Dios.
Don't you think we have enough fighting against us?
¿Tenemos suficiente lucha contra nosotros?
That's why we must be wise enough to come together and fight for unity.
Es por eso que debemos ser lo suficiente sabios para unirnos y luchar por la unidad.
We don't need to compare to one another.
No nos tenemos que comparar uno al otro.
We just need to fight for unity.
Tenemos solamente que pelear por unidad.
Unity in our families and lives are crucial to the revival we are seeing and will see in this present day. Unity.
La unidad de nuestras familias y vidas son cruciales para este avivamiento que estamos viviendo hoy.
In the Old Testament, God commanded Joshua to initiate conversations and share testimonies as the bridge.
En el Antiguo Testamento Dios ordenó a Josué que iniciara conversaciones y compartiera testimonios como el puente entre generaciones.
It was the conversations and testimonies that built a bridge between generations.
Fueron las conversaciones y testimonios que hicieron el puente entre las generaciones.
Joshua chapter 4, you can read it, 1 through 4. Read Joshua chapter 4 on your own.
Lea uno cuando tenga tiempo, Josué capítulo 4.
Moses had died and Joshua is appointed to lead Israel.
Moisés ha muerto y Josué es nombrado para dirigir a Israel.
God tells Joshua to take the people across the Jordan.
Dios le dice a Josué, lleva a la gente al otro lado del Jordán.
So Joshua starts to organize the people and he makes sure that the Ark of the Covenant was present or to be found.
Comienza a organizar a la gente y se asegura que la arca del pacto está presente.
And he brings all the leaders and the people together.
Josué reúne a todos los líderes.
And he tells them when we cross over, the water is going to withdraw. Gather some stones and then pile them on the other side of the Jordan.
Y les dice, cuando crucemos el agua se va a retirar. Reúne algunas piedras y apilado al otro lado del Jordán.
He says, pile up the stones on the other side so when the next generation comes,
Apile piedras en el otro lado. Así cuando llegue la próxima generación,
they may say, I wonder why these are here. What is all these stones doing here?
puedan decir, ¿qué significa estas piedras? Me pregunto por qué están aquí.
I remember hearing about my grandma, my daddy, and my uncles passing through the Jordan.
Yo me acuerdo de mis abuelos, mis tíos, mis tías cruzando el río Jordán.
But I don't know what this means.
Pero yo no sé qué significa esto.
What do these stones mean
¿Qué
here?
significan estas piedras?
And these were placed there to allow conversations
Fueron puestas allí para hacer conversaciones,
and for them to share testimonies.
para compartir testimonios.
And it was this, the testimonies and the conversations. It was those that brought the leadership together under Joshua's reign.
Y esas conversaciones y testimonios fue lo que trajo su liderazgo a unirse
You see,
debajo de
because
Josué.
Joshua had just been given responsibility of leading the generations.
Porque Josué le había dado el lugar de liderazgo.
The people had listened to Joshua.
La gente oía a Josué,
They listened to him,
lo oían.
but they had not yet been fully convinced of his leadership.
Lo oían, pero no estaban bien convencidos de su liderazgo.
But it was this very act of unifying the people that God validated Joshua before the people.
Fue este mismo acto de unificar al pueblo que Dios validó el liderazgo de Josué ante el pueblo.
This is where the Bible tells us that God began to validate Joshua
La Biblia nos dice que aquí fue cuando Dios comenzó a hacer
in the
válido
eyes
a Josué
of the people.
en los ojos del pueblo.
They had followed him.
Lo habían seguido,
They trusted him
se confiaban de él,
a little bit,
poquito,
just enough to cross over,
suficiente para cruzar,
but they weren't really sure
pero no estaban muy seguros
if he was the one
que él era el
and
indicado,
if he was going in the right direction.
que estaba yendo en la dirección correcta.
But because
¿Pero por qué?
he was able to bring unity and stir up the conversations
Pero porque pudo
and
hacer
share
las
the
conversaciones,
testimonies about the good God
pero porque pudo hacer las
that they
conversaciones,
served and how God opened up the river and they walked on dry ground.
por la unificación del pueblo, pudo Dios abrir el Jordán
And Joshua
y Josué
maybe a little young like us,
un poco joven como nosotros,
he kept some Calebs
él captó Calebs
in his presence.
en su presencia.
He kept someone who was experienced and someone with some tenacity to take mountains and drive out giants.
Josué mantuvo un Caleb en su presencia.
And I wonder today,
Yo pienso hoy,
do we have any Calebs in the house today?
tenemos algunos Calebes en la casa hoy.
Do we have any Joshuas in the house today
Tenemos Josueces hoy aquí
that are willing to come together
que quieren venir
and
juntos,
cultivate
cultivar
healthy conversations
conversaciones sanas,
about change,
de cambios,
about God,
de Dios,
about vision,
de visión,
about unity,
de unidad,
about making a difference
de hacer una diferencia
in God's kingdom?
en el reino de Dios.
It was this famous verse
Fue este versículo famoso
that we all hear and see quoted.
que todos oímos.
And if it was evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your father served in region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. And Joshua says and declares, but we often miss something in here.
A veces se pierde algo en este versículo.
But as for me and my house,
Yo y mi casa
we'll serve the Lord.
rendiremos junto al Señor.
And I hope you caught what I missed,
Ojalá miro lo que yo me faltó.
because in the English Bible,
En la palabra, en la escritura en inglés,
but as for me and my house,
yo y mi casa,
we,
nosotros,
my family,
mi familia,
my children,
mis hijos,
my grandchildren,
mis nietos,
we,
nosotros,
we,
nosotros,
we,
nosotros,
we
nosotros
will serve the Lord.
serviremos al Señor.
If we don't unite together,
Si no nos unimos juntos,
we will die.
vamos a morir.
That's why we have to change our perspectives,
Por eso tenemos que cambiar nuestra perspectiva,
change our outlook on the future,
cambiar nuestra visión hacia el futuro,
change our mindset on growth,
nuestra mente en crecimiento,
and most importantly, change our approach to the next generation.
cambiar la forma que a la generación que
I don't want to die without giving God the best of me.
yo no quiero morir sin darle lo mejor a mi Señor.
I don't want to die without saying, God, at least I tried.
No quiero morir sin decir, Señor, hice la lucha, Señor.
I want to be like those lepers
Quiero ser como esos hombres enfermos de lepra,
that didn't just choose
que no nomás escogieron
to do what everything was expected of them to do.
hacer lo que todos esperaba de ellos.
Just stay,
Estar nomás
just
ahí,
plateau,
nomás estar ahí,
just get to that place and get complacent.
nomás llegar a ese lugar y estar allí bien.
I want to go. I want to conquer Samaria. I want God to go and show me how powerful He is.
Yo quiero conquistar y que Dios me enseñe qué tan grande y poderoso es
There's
Él.
too many people that need this wonderful, beautiful salvation
Hay
in
mucha
Jesus
gente que
Christ.
necesita esa salvación en Cristo.
So as we fight for unity,
So, como peleamos para unidad,
I'm going to ask you to stand.
les voy a pedir que se pongan de pie.
We need to maintain influence.
Tenemos que mantener influencia.
We have to change.
Tenemos que cambiar,
Get this. Or else we will die.
o si no, moriremos.
But here's what's goes back to my opening verse.
Nos vamos atrás al versículo.
We will leave
Nos vamos a ir.
the future
El futuro
in the womb.
en el vientre.
And we won't have strength.
Y no vamos a tener fuerza.
We won't be able to.
No vamos a poder.
We won't
No vamos
push.
a empujar.
We won't have the strength on our own
No tenemos la suficiente fuerza de nosotros
to push.
para empujar.
Hezekiah
Ezequías,
versus the king of Assyria.
rey de Asiria.
His name was Sennacherib. And I'm just going to paraphrase and bring this home.
Pues,
Up to this point, Hezekiah had been overrun and the people of Judah were overtaken by Assyria.
Hasta este punto el rey Ezequías lo habían tomado los enemigos.
The influence of Hezekiah over the people of Judah was growing dim.
La influencia de Ezequías sobre el pueblo estaba bajando.
And he had initiated some conversations with the king of Assyria.
Inició unas conversaciones con el rey de Siria.
And he had compromised some things in his life. He compromised some things in his life. He had took the gold that was overlaid from the temple and he gave it to the king. And the king of Assyria knew it. So he sent representatives to stir up conversations. And to cause confusion in the people.
Entre la gente.
And he began to offer them things like, the king of Assyria will give you homes, food to eat. You'll be able to sit under your fig trees. You'll be able to enjoy the fruits if you don't follow Hezekiah and all he tells you about his God. And he polluted the minds of the people. And he challenged their loyalty. Similar to today. Our kids are being challenged like never before. Our future. Something's out there causing confusion. Something's out there stirring up a little bit of fear. And they're being offered things that may seem to be better. And this was an attempt to change the future of Judah. And the future's at stake. And Hezekiah sends a message to the prophet Isaiah. He was the senior representative of God. And it wasn't no simple prayer.
Y no fue una oración sencilla.
He searches and he searches.
Busca y busca.
And he tries to find the words.
Trata de hallar las palabras.
The words to express what he was feeling and what was happening.
Palabras para expresar lo que estaba sintiendo en ese momento.
And he tells him,
y le dice,
this day is a day of distress.
Este día es el día
of rebuke and of disgrace. Children have come to the point of birth, God. And there's no strength
y no tengo fuerza, no hay fuerza
to bring them forth.
A traerlos adelante.
He knows.
Él sabe.
And he knew.
Y él sabía.
If we do not change, God,
si no cambiamos, Señor,
we will die.
Vamos a morir.
He was so concerned.
Él estaba muy preocupado
about what was happening to the future.
De lo que estaba pasando al futuro.
That he uses the metaphor of a woman giving birth
de una mujer dando a luz.
To describe
para describir
the worst thing
la peor cosa
that could happen to Judah.
Que podía pasar a Judá.
The worst thing that could happen to our families.
Lo peor que podía pasar a nuestra familia.
The worst thing that could happen to your ministry.
Lo peor que puede pasar a tu ministerio.
The worst thing that could happen to your leadership.
Lo más mal que puede pasar a tu liderazgo.
The worst thing that could happen to our churches.
Lo más mal que puede pasar a nuestras iglesias.
The worst thing.
Lo peor cosa.
And I struggled.
Yo batallé.
There was no strength.
No había fuerza.
To lead the next generation.
Para ayudar a la siguiente generación.
And I asked God why.
Y le pregunté al Señor por qué.
I know the topic is trendy.
Otro tema está mejor.
And why is it so important to change?
¿Por qué es tan importante del cambio?
Why is it so important to get a clear vision?
¿Por qué es tan importante tener una visión clara?
Why
¿Por
do we
qué?
have to seek unity?
¿Por qué tenemos que buscar unidad?
Why do we need to stop comparing?
¿Por qué tenemos que parar comparaciones?
Why do we need to gather Joshua's and Caleb's
¿Por qué tenemos que
together?
juntar Josueces y Calebs?
And he said,
Me dijo,
because some of my people,
algunas de mi gente
they have dreams.
tienen sueños,
They have churches.
tienen iglesias,
They have visions.
tienen visiones.
There's a child in their womb.
Hay un niño en su vientre.
The future sitting there inside of them.
El futuro está sentado allí en el vientre.
And they're trying.
Están tratando.
And I believe God's saying this weekend,
Y Dios está diciendo en este fin de
this
semana,
weekend,
este fin de semana,
lean into me.
inclínate a mí,
Lean into me.
inclínate hacia mí,
Just a little bit more.
solamente poquito,
Lean into me.
inclínate a mí.
I'm going to give them just what they need.
Yo te voy a dar lo que necesitan,
Just lean into me.
solamente inclínate hacia mí.
I wonder if we could lift our hands.
Podemos levantar nuestras manos. A ver,
What is it that's inside of you?
es lo que está dentro de ti.
You and God know.
Tú y Dios saben
What needs to change today?
qué tiene que cambiar hoy.
What is inside of you?
¿Qué está dentro de ti
That you don't want to die.
que tú no quieres que muera?